So, today I have a variant of the Bloodshot build, which focuses on one gun. You've seen it, you've loved it, that's right. It's the BOD. No, it is the Finnity XXL. Our previous build had Bloodshot as an addition, this one focuses on it entirely. Our goal is to proc Bloodshot quickly and consistently, and this build is the best way to do it. For boss clears, I think this is stronger and more consistent than the BOD build, and it is one of, if not the best Bloodshot build we have so far. If you have all the pieces or just want to copy the build, I will go through it quickly at the start, and we will get into the detailed explanation after, so you can understand how the build works and tailor the build to what you have or how you want to play. Here are the skills. Here are the specializations. I said I was going to standardize at 50 and lied one video later. And here is the gear. The only mandatory gun is the Finnity. The legendary enhancement also isn't technically required, but it does get a lot weaker without it or a good enough replacement. We're running 3 Deadeye with 2 heating up as our firmware, and that is the quick rundown. Let's get into it. So what are we doing and how do we do it? The Finnity has a COV mag and can fire off an unusually large amount of bullets before overheating. With this COV enhancement, all of those shots are guaranteed to be critical hits. Bloodshot has a 1/3 chance to proc off of critical hits, and it is a flat damage number. So instead of trying to do as much damage as possible in one shot, we want to put out as many bullets as we can as fast as possible to get Bloodshot to proc as often as we possibly can. It is a similar idea to the BOD build, but it isn't limited by critical chance like the knife or skills. And with all the fire rate we're going to be getting, we can melt just about anything. Starting with our skills, we want to trade a little bit of potential upfront damage for fire rate. We start with Gravesights for a couple of reasons. Finnity is locked to fire, so we can't make great use out of the leeching attunement. But this is a fine trade, crit damage is always good, and gun handling becomes a lot more important when your gun is trying desperately to shoot the ceiling. 4 stacks into Bleed and 1 into Grave Implements, only because we have Grave Power right under it. 4 into Material Components because Bloodshot and Bleed still scale off of kinetic damage, and 3 into the Grave Power for the kill skills we're running. 5 points into Grave Vitality and into Bloodshot. Once again, Grave Vitality can be subbed out for Ars Arcana, but it is less desirable to do it here, since we now have Grave Power for all of the kill skills. 5 into Essence Leech and into Blood is Power for the free bonus damage and survivability. 20 out of the 30% potential lifesteal is still found here, so while it hurts that we lose the attunement, there is still a bonus 60% damage we get out of this, so it is definitely still worth it. Another thing to mention here, yes, we can't use the attunement since the Finnity is locked to fire, but it still can use all of the other kinetic scalars since Bloodshot converts all the damage dealt into kinetic. So it is still very important that we get as much kinetic scaling as possible. 5 points into Drink Full, we max this out almost instantly, and 1 point into Mortal Terror to make sure we can get our kill skills during boss fights. 1% isn't a lot, but with our crits guaranteed and with how many bullets we fire, you are more often than not able to gain more than enough stacks quickly. After the green skill tree, we don't have a lot of skill points left. I like 3 in Idle Hands because I am a fiend for reloading. I can't get enough of it. I gotta reload all the time, otherwise I go insane. But if you're confident enough that you kill in one clip, then you don't actually need this reload speed and can go into more damage with Enchantment or more fire rate with Grave Assault. Just know that 1 skill point into this gives 9% fire rate at max stacks, and you'll see later on that we get upwards of 95% fire rate already. You don't really need it. And as for the 5 points we have in Fell Inscriptions, these points are honestly interchangeable with Enchantment. I have found a very small increase in damage during the action skill with Enchantment, if any, when compared to the scaling that we get from the extra health. And there is a smaller return on investment with Enchantment since we already have 60% bonus damage from our lifesteal. If you are more concerned with boss consistency, then I say go for Enchantment. But for literally everything else, I say Fell Inscriptions. Moving on to Specializations. Sorry, once again, I said I would keep the baseline at 50, but there are too many good synergies to not include them all here. The best defense is obvious with how much lifesteal and survivability we have. It's free damage dealt. Riddle you this becomes a lot stronger in builds that can stack to 50 incredibly quickly, and this one is no exception. It's also a free 50% gun damage. In the Zone is incredibly strong and easy to use, but CQC is also very usable here. Any boss that can be meleeed allows for 30% more fire rate, and that 8-second timer gives you a very generous window to do it first, hit your rep kit, throw your knife, and still have 5 or so seconds to pump out damage. The fourth slot is always going to be Bullet Train. It is good on its own, but we are also using a rep kit, or I will be recommending a rep kit that offers more movement speed, which will in turn offer more gun damage. For the prioritization order, I would say go for best defense over everything. Then go for Riddle You This, which also allows you to grab CQC. Then go for Runner, which allows you to grab Bullet Train. Then finally go for End the Zone, as your alternative for CQC. Now, let's look at the gear. The only required gun here is the Finnity, for the reasons we mentioned earlier. If you're farming for a good one, the two main stats you want are shots to overheat and fire rate. I've only seen 14 and 19 for shots to overheat, but the difference between the two is insane. I think it's upwards of like 20 or 30 bullets on its own. So go for those stats. The truck is still really good for mobbing, since starting and stopping with the Finnity means you are actually wasting a lot of bullets and you will run out of ammo extremely quickly. The bod is also very good for this, as we have already spec'd a lot into attack speed, and this thing will benefit from it as well. A COV part on it means it can also benefit from our enhancement, but it has very little time to actually put it to good use. Another thing to note is that it can still trigger Bloodshot in any mode. While I don't think it benefits from your buffs to snipers while it isn't in sniper mode, it is still a very good way of keeping your sniper ammo up for the mini bosses and bosses when you're in drill sites or vaults or anywhere that has smaller enemies first. Keep in mind that Bloodshot converts all of the damage dealt into kinetic, so doesn't really matter what element you have on this thing either. In your fourth slot can be anything, but I like having a support drone whenever I have a free slot. I am very surprised at how little I see this thing being used in builds, but it offers 20% damage, 20% movement speed, and reload rate at any level, which is good in every case, but it is especially good in ours, since we heavily benefit from all three buffs. For the rep kit, I would recommend you find a shiny war paint with a good substat. Damage dealt is the main one, but movement speed is a direct damage buff, and I think it can roll fire rate on top of its own fire rate perk. While I was lucky enough to get a Phosphine Finnity, I was not lucky enough to get a war paint with anything good. I was barely lucky enough to get a shiny war paint at all, so I settled on this fire rate reload speed rep kit for now. For the ordnance, it's the knife. Even though we don't need the crit chance, we still need the damage amplification. Our reliance on the GOAT will not change for the foreseeable future. Class mod is the Undead Eye. Once again, maximum health is the perfect substat roll, but you can go for crit damage or sniper crit damage or some form of damage here. Ideally, you also have 5 points into Bloodshot, but I can understand your pain if you still haven't found one. It still works, but I would say that this is the biggest improvement to your build that you can make. If you can get a 5-point Bloodshot with maximum health, you will feel the biggest damage increase out of anything else. Our shield is the Timekeeper's new shield for the maximum health, there just isn't a better option, and our enhancement is the Quicksilver. Now, in a perfect world, you would have this with sniper rifle damage and gun fire rate, but the build still functions with a purple COV enhancement that has the crits while overheating. You have a lot of other avenues to grab your fire rate, including going back and grabbing Grave Assault if you need to, but you would really like to have as much fire rate from this slot as you can reasonably get. Unfortunately, this drop is the one that requires the most luck, since there is no dedicated farm for enhancements and you would really want to farm this very specific one for this build. Try your best and hopefully you find one that is really good. For your firmware, this is actually very important to the success of your build. 3 Deadeye is the industry standard, but we are also going to spec into heating up 2 for the extra 50% shots before breaking. This is what allows you to go from 60 to 70 bullets on average to 100 to 120 bullets on average. Those 30, 40, 50, 60 bullets make a huge difference, and that gun reload speed is always helpful as well. And with that, you have the build. Final notes. This is a mid to late game build. If I remember correctly, heating up is one of these special firmwares you can only get after UVH1. And all of the moving parts and farms you have to do for this means you can't reasonably get this build going in the early game. I would recommend either doing the full Kinetic Bleed build or grabbing the Undid Eye class mod when you get to Vile Lictor and going for my Generalist Bloodshot build until you can get all the pieces of this puzzle. Alright, that's it. Hope you can find some use out of this build. Hope you have a wonderful day. See you later.